The first thing you learn driving nights is that the road has moods. Some nights the asphalt feels normal, just a long, dark ribbon, steady under your tires, the hum of the engine like a lullaby that never quite lets you sleep. Other nights, the road feels watchful, like it's waiting for you to make one mistake, like it remembers every driver who ever got tired, got careless, got dead. I'd been hauling freight for 12 years, mostly dry van and reefer, food, paper goods, the stuff that keeps the shelves full. I'd done blizzards in Wyoming and summer storms in Louisiana so thick you could taste the humidity through the cab filter. I'd learned which truck stops had clean showers and which ones had parking lots that smelled like old oil and bad choices. So when people say, "Did you ever see anything weird out there?" I usually tell them no, because the truth is, I did. And the one time I did, it wasn't on a mountain pass or in a hurricane. It was on a 2-lane state road that wasn't supposed to be anything special. A road with a mile marker that didn't belong. My name's Cole Mercer. That night, I was running a refrigerated load of boxed meat from a distribution yard outside Wichita, headed toward a processing facility a few hours east. Easy money, tight schedule. The kind of run dispatch assigns when they want to see if you'll bend your hours to make it happen. The guy at the gate handed me my paperwork and said, "You're good to roll." I checked the seal, I checked the reefer, I checked the lights. Routine, muscle memory. Then I climbed into my Freightliner, settled into the seat that molded to my spine like it had grown there, and started rolling. The sky was the color of wet steel. No moon, low clouds. The kind of night where your headlights don't illuminate so much as they carve a tunnel into the dark. I got on the interstate and ran steady for a while. Music low, coffee warm in the cup holder, air brakes whispering every time I eased off. Around 11:40 p.m., my dispatcher called. "Cole," she said, "you still on schedule?" "Barely," I told her. "We got an issue." Of course we did. "There's a DOT set up near the main exit. They're pulling reefers and doing temp checks. Guys are getting held up." I glanced at my logs. I didn't have time to sit. Reefer loads don't care about your excuses. "What's the workaround?" I asked. There was a pause. Then, "You can cut east on 117, Old State Road. It'll drop you back onto the highway past the scale." I knew 117 by reputation, not from experience, just stories. The kind of road drivers mention the way you mention a dog that bites. "Is it legal?" I asked. "It's a road," she said, and I could hear the shrug in her voice. "Just don't speed through the little towns. Sheriff likes his tickets." Copy. Another pause, like she wanted to add something, but didn't. Then she said, quieter, "If you stop out there, stop at a real place, not one of those roadside lots." Roadside lots? "Just don't overthink it. Get through and call me when you're back on the interstate." The call ended. I took the exit. The interstate lights fell away behind me like I'd driven off the edge of a map. 2-lane blacktop. No shoulder worth mentioning. Trees pressed in on both sides like spectators leaning over a fence. My headlights lit trunks and brush and the occasional reflective sign. The road rolled gently. Low hills, the reefer humming steady behind me. At first, it was fine. A few miles in, I saw my first sign. "No services next 52 miles. I snorted. Services out here meant a broken vending machine and an outhouse that didn't lock. Still, the sign felt overly dramatic, like the state wanted you to know you were leaving the part of the world where help existed. My CB was on, volume low, channel 19, mostly static. A couple distant voices stepping on each other somewhere far away. I drove another 10 minutes without seeing a single car. Then my GPS blinked. Not froze, blinked, like someone had switched it off and on. The map spun once, recentered, and the screen displayed, recalculating. Then, after a beat, continue straight for 41 miles. Yeah, I muttered, that's the plan. A few miles later, I passed a mile marker, 44. I barely registered it, just another white post with black numbers, reflective enough to flash in my peripheral vision. But maybe 5 minutes after that, I saw another mile marker, 44. I sat up a little. Maybe I'd missed 45. Maybe the state replaced one and forgot to change the number. It happens. Road crews aren't always poets. Still, it was the same. Same height, same scuffs near the bottom, same faint crack through the 4 like it had been hit by gravel 1,000 times. I looked in my mirror, expecting to see the first one receding behind me. But the road behind was just dark. No reflective post. Nothing. I gripped my wheel tighter. Okay, I said to myself. Okay, Cole, it's late, you're tired, don't start making a thing out of nothing. A mile later, the radio hissed with a voice, close, like they were right behind me. You running 117? I blinked, turned the CB up. Yeah, I said, eastbound. Who's asking? Static. Then the voice again, clearer. Don't stop. Whatever you do, don't stop. I frowned. Who is this? The CB crackled, something like breathing. Then, if you see 44, keep rolling. I stared at the dark road ahead. Buddy, I forced a laugh. I already saw 44 twice. Silence. Then a single word, low and heavy, like it dropped through the speaker instead of coming out of it. Turn around. My throat tightened. I grabbed the mic again. Hey, say again? What's your handle? No response. Just static. A few minutes later, I saw taillights ahead. 2 red dots far down the road. A vehicle doing maybe 10 under the limit. I felt relief so sharp it almost annoyed me. Another human being meant the world was still normal. I eased off the throttle and closed the distance. As I got closer, I realized it wasn't a car. It was a semi. Old model. Boxy. The taillights weren't bright LEDs. They were duller, warmer, like old bulbs behind dirty plastic. The trailer looked long and dark, and I couldn't see any reflective tape along the sides. That's when I noticed something else. No running lights, no marker lights, just those 2 taillights floating ahead like embers. That made no sense. Even the most beat-up rig on Earth has some lights working. DOT would eat you alive for less. I flashed my brights once, quick, like, hey, you good? Like drivers do. The taillights didn't react, didn't speed up, didn't move over. I clicked my high beams again. The taillights flickered, not like a bulb struggling, like something blinked. And then the truck was gone. Not sped up, not turned off, not drifted onto a side road. Gone. 1 second, taillights. Next second, empty road. I hit my brakes harder than I meant to, the reefer load pushing a little, the whole rig settling with a heavy shudder. My heart hammered like it wanted out. I sat there, stopped in the lane, staring forward. Okay, that's not possible. My headlights cut through nothing but black road and trees. And then, behind me, in my side mirror, 2 red dots appeared. Close, too close. Taillights. But behind me, like a truck had pulled right up on my bumper without me hearing a thing. I snapped my head around, looked in the mirrors again. The red dots were steady. I could feel it then, something I'd felt only a handful of times in my life, that animal sense of being hunted. I eased my foot off the brake and rolled forward. The taillights stayed behind me, matching my speed. No engine noise, no headlight spill, just those 2 red points fixed at the edge of my mirrors. I grabbed the CB mic with a shaking hand. "Who's back there?" I asked, trying to keep my voice level. Static. Then, soft, like it was being said right next to my ear instead of through a speaker. "Don't look at it." My stomach dropped. I swallowed hard. "Who are you?" No answer. I drove, and I didn't look at those taillights any more than I had to. Around midnight, my low fuel light blinked once. Just the warning, not empty, but enough to get my attention. I hadn't planned to stop. I'd fueled earlier, or at least I thought I had, but suddenly my gauge didn't feel trustworthy. None of my instruments did. Then I saw a sign ahead on the right. Truck parking, food, diesel, 1 mile. Relief hit me again, immediate and stupid. A truck stop meant lights, people, cameras, normalcy. A mile later, the road opened into a wide gravel lot. A building sat back from the road, lit up like a lantern. A handful of trucks were parked along the edge, silhouettes against the floodlights. The sign above the door read, "Evelyn's." I didn't recognize the name, but then again, small places come and go. I turned in. As my tires crunched over the gravel, my cab lights flickered. My radio popped. My GPS went black. The moment my truck stopped, the taillights behind me vanished. I sat in the silence, hands still on the wheel. The place looked normal, but wrong in ways I couldn't name fast enough. The light from the building didn't spill naturally. It seemed to stop short, like it didn't want to touch the darker parts of the lot. The parked trucks didn't have company logos, no plates visible, and there was no sound, no idling engines, no laughter, no doors slamming, just my reefer unit humming. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped down. The air felt colder than it should have. Not winter cold, basement cold. I walked toward the building, boots crunching, and the glass door swung open before I touched it. A bell above it rang once. Inside, the place looked like every small truck stop diner you've ever seen. Booths, counter, coffee station, a rack of snacks, dusty shelves with motor oil and CB antennas. Behind the counter stood a woman in a pale uniform. She looked about 60, hair pulled back tight. Her eyes were open wide in a way that made her look permanently surprised. "Evening," she said. "Evening," I replied. "Y'all still serving coffee?" She nodded. "Always." I approached the coffee station. The pot was already full, steaming gently. I poured myself a cup and realized my hands were shaking. "You headed through?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, then hesitated. "What town is this?" Her eyes didn't blink. "Not much of one." I forced a smile. "Fair." I glanced around. "Where is everybody?" She tilted her head. "They're here." I looked again. The booths were empty. The counter stools were empty. But then my gaze drifted to the far corner. There were men sitting there. I hadn't noticed them at first, like my brain had slid right past them to avoid acknowledging them. 3 of them, hunched in a booth, truckers by the looks of their jackets. One had a cap pulled low. Another had hands clasped tight around a mug. None of them moved, not even to look at me. I got a chill that crawled up my back. I turned to the woman behind the counter. "Ma'am, can I get 20 gallons of diesel?" She didn't answer right away. Her gaze went to the window, out towards the road. Then she said, carefully, "You can, but you shouldn't." I stared at her. "Why not?" "You're on 117, she said, like that explained everything. "You don't stop on 117. I swallowed. "I didn't plan to. I glanced at my coffee. "I needed a minute." "You won't get it here," she said. My mouth went dry. "What is this place?" Her eyes shifted to mine for the first time with something like pity. "This is where drivers come when they don't make it through," she said softly. No, that's not funny." "I didn't say it was," she replied. Behind me, one of the men in the booth moved, slowly, like a puppet learning how to use joints.
I heard the scrape of a cup on the table. Then, a voice, raspy, exhausted, said, "Cole Merker." Every hair on my arms stood up. I turned around. The man in the cap had lifted his head just enough for me to see his face, or what was left of the idea of one. It wasn't gory. It was worse than gory, like his features were blurred by heat shimmer, like a memory somebody tried to erase and failed. He said my name again. "Cole Merker, you're late." My heart slammed against my ribs. "How do you know my name?" I demanded, backing up a step. The woman behind the counter sighed. "Because the road knows you." I backed towards the door. The bell above it didn't ring when I pushed it open. Outside, my truck sat under the floodlights, looking suddenly too small against the trees. I half ran across the gravel lot, climbed into the cab, and slammed the door. The instant it shut, every light in Evelyn's went out. The building vanished into darkness like it had never been there. My GPS flickered back on. The map was blank. No road lines, no towns, just a single message: return to route. I stared at it, breathing hard, then started the engine and pulled out. I didn't look back at Evelyn's. I didn't want to see if it was really gone.
The road narrowed again, trees closing in. My headlights caught another mile marker. 44. A cold wave moved through me. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no." I drove faster, not reckless, but fast enough to feel like I was outrunning something that didn't have a speed limit. A few minutes later, the CB crackled. "Cole." I flinched. "Cole, you still got your doors locked?" My hand tightened around the wheel. "Who is this?" "It don't matter," the voice said. "Answer the question." "Yes," I said. "Doors are locked." "Good," the voice replied. "Now listen, don't stop again. Don't pull over. Don't check your trailer. Don't get out for nothing. If you see that truck—" "That truck?" I asked. "The one with no lights?" Static swell like a storm. Then the voice came back, strained. "It ain't a truck," he said. "It's what's left when a road takes somebody." I swallowed. "Why is it after me?" The voice hesitated. Then, "Because you've been here before." My breath caught. "No, I haven't." "You sure?" the voice asked, and it sounded almost sad. "You sure you don't remember?" And then the CB went dead. Not static, dead. The screen dimmed. The speaker went silent, like the radio had never existed. I was alone with the engine and the reefer and the dark. And then, ahead of me, I saw taillights. 2 red dots, floating in the lane, waiting. I eased off the throttle, my mouth dry. The taillights held steady, then began moving, slowly, like they were guiding me. I should have taken the hint and hit the brakes, turned around, done anything but follow. But the road was narrow, and the trees were close, and my mind was doing that survival math where any choice feels worse than the one you're already making. So I followed, and the mile marker started repeating. 44. Then, a little later, 44. Again, 44. No 45, no 43, just 44. Like the road was stuck on a single thought, like a broken record, or a warning that couldn't be spoken any other way. Then the fog appeared. It rolled in low, thick, swallowing the edges of my headlights. My beams turned into pale cones, and beyond them was nothing. The taillights ahead glowed dimly through the fog, like coals behind ash. I leaned forward, squinting, trying to see the outline of the trailer. But there was no outline, just the lights. Then the lights drifted to the right, like the vehicle was changing lanes. There was no second lane. I stared, confused, and that's when my headlights lit something that made my blood turn to ice. A guardrail, bent inward, torn, and beyond it, down a shallow slope, a wreck, a semi, crushed and twisted among the trees like a toy stepped on by a god. The trailer split open, the cab crumpled in on itself. My rig, my exact model and color, and on the door, half covered in mud and leaves, my logo, my unit number, my number. I slammed the brakes, tires screaming, the reefer load surging. The truck shuddered to a stop. My chest heaved like I'd been running. I stared at the wreck below, my mind refusing it. That's not me," I whispered. But it was. I knew every sticker on that door. I knew the dent near the fuel tank from a careless dock bump 6 months back. I knew the way the mud flap hung a little lower on the right. I stared so hard my eyes watered. And then I saw movement inside the wrecked cab. Something shifting, something turning its head, like it knew I was looking. My hands went numb. I reached for the door handle without thinking, some stupid instinct to get out, to help, to prove I wasn't crazy. Then I remembered the voice. "Don't get out for nothing." My hand froze. In the fog, ahead of me, the 2 red taillights brightened. They weren't ahead anymore. They were beside me, outside my driver's window, close enough that their red glow smeared across my glass. My entire body went rigid. Very slowly, I turned my head. I did not want to, but you don't get to choose what curiosity does to you when fear has you by the throat. I looked. There was a truck next to mine, an old rig, boxy, paint scorched and dull, like it had been baked in smoke. No running lights, no reflectors, and in the driver's seat was a shape, not a person in a normal way, a silhouette that looked too tall for the cab, shoulders hunched, head tilted like it didn't sit on a neck correctly. It turned toward me, and even through the foggy glass, I could tell it didn't have eyes. Not empty sockets, just no place where eyes should be. The shape lifted one arm and pointed forward, not toward the road ahead, toward the mile marker I could see just beyond my headlights. 44. Then it pointed down the slope, to the wreck, and somehow, without any sound, it communicated a message so clear it rang in my bones. "This is where you belong." My throat worked. No sound came out. The figure's other hand lifted, palm open, like it was offering me something. An invitation, a promise, a trade. And I understood, suddenly and completely, that if I opened my door, if I stepped down on that asphalt, if my boots touched the ground on mile 44, I wouldn't be getting back in. The road would take me the way it had taken the others. It would fold me into its loop. It would make me one more set of taillights, one more warning for the next driver who didn't believe in warnings. My eyes stung. I shook my head hard, as if refusing could break a spell. "No," I rasped. The shape didn't move. Its hand stayed extended, patient, like it had all the time in the world. Because it did. I fumbled for the gear shift with trembling fingers. I didn't know if the truck behind me existed anymore. I didn't even know if I was alive in the normal sense. But I knew one thing. I wasn't opening that door. I dropped it in gear and hit the throttle. The engine roared. The rig lurched forward. For a moment, it felt like driving through water, thick resistance, like the road itself didn't want to let me go. Then something snapped. The fog tore open, the air warmed, and the world jolted,
like I'd been holding my breath for an hour and finally exhaled. My headlights caught a green sign, Interstate 2 miles. I almost sobbed. I kept driving, refusing to check mirrors, refusing to look for those taillights. Behind me, the road stayed dark. No red dots, no phantom truck, no mile 44. 6. The way station lights. I hit the interstate like a swimmer breaking the surface. Street lights, reflective signs, a few cars, normal movement in the lanes. I drove 2 exits down before I let myself breathe like a human again. Then I pulled into a bright, busy truck stop with real logos and real noise and real diesel fumes. I parked between 2 trucks that looked solid and lived in and real. I shut down my engine and sat in the silence, hands still gripping the wheel. For a while, all I did was listen to my heart slow down. Finally, I grabbed my phone and called dispatch. My dispatcher answered on the second ring. "Cole, I'm back on the interstate," I said. She exhaled like she'd been holding her breath all night. "Thank God," I swallowed. "What is Route 117? She didn't reply right away. I pressed, voice tight. "What is mile marker 44? Another pause. Then she said carefully, "How many times did you see?" My blood went cold again. "How many did I... What? How many times," she repeated, "did you see 44? I stared out my windshield at the bright truck stop sign, the moving cars, the normal world. "I don't know," I whispered. 3, 4, more? Her voice got quieter. "Then you're lucky." "Tell me what it is," I demanded. She hesitated. Then, "My uncle drove for us years ago, took 117 to skip a scale, same as you." I didn't speak. "He called me once," she continued, "from the road, said he..."
I made the delivery at dawn. The facility was normal. Bright lights, forklifts, workers in hairnets and vests, clipboard guys who looked bored enough to be real. I backed into the dock, cracked the doors, watched the workers break the seal and start unloading. Everything was fine. For a while, I started to convince myself I'd hallucinated it. Fatigue, stress, road hypnosis. The mind can do ugly things when it's overworked. I signed the paperwork, shook hands, climbed back into my cab. As I pulled out, my eyes caught something on the wall inside the guard shack. A bulletin board with flyers. Missing dogs, yard rules, safety reminders. And one laminated sheet with a headline in bold. "In Memoriam, drivers lost on 117. A list of names. I should have kept walking. I should have pretended I didn't see it. But I looked anyway. The list wasn't long, maybe 10 names. Under them, a smaller line. "If you experience disorientation, repeating signage, or unexplained lights, do not stop. Turn around immediately." My throat tightened. Then my eyes dropped to the last name on the list. It wasn't mine. It was a name I recognized from my company, a driver who'd been in orientation videos, a guy who'd retired before I started. And beside his name, written in small print, "Last known radio transmission, if you see 44, keep rolling." My stomach sank. He was the voice on my CB, or an echo of it, or whatever the road kept when it took a man and left the rest behind. I walked out of the guard shack on legs that didn't feel like my own and climbed back into my truck. As I started the engine, my CB hissed to life by itself. Channel 19. A single burst of static. Then faint and distant, so distant it could have been coming from another year entirely. A voice said, "Cole?" I froze. The voice was mine, not like someone imitating me, like a recording pulled out of the air. And it said, exhausted and afraid, "I already saw 44 twice." My blood turned to ice. I reached out slowly and shut the CB off. Then I drove. I didn't take back roads, I didn't take shortcuts, and I haven't driven Route 117 since. 8. Epilogue. Why I'm telling you this. You might think the point of this story is don't take the old road. That's part of it, but it's not the whole thing. The whole thing is this. There are places out there where the world frays, places where a mistake doesn't just cost you your truck or your job, places where the road doesn't just kill you, it keeps you. And it doesn't keep you as a ghost in a white sheet or a spooky face in a mirror. It keeps you as a habit, a warning, a voice on a radio telling the next tired driver what you wish somebody had told you. Sometimes, late at night, when the sky is the color of wet steel and the interstate is empty enough to feel like a thought nobody finished, I'll pass a mile marker and catch myself checking the number twice, just to be sure. Because every now and then, I swear I see it. Not on the sign, not on the post, but reflected faintly in the glass of my side mirror, like a memory that never learned how to die. 44. And when I do, I don't stop. I just keep rolling.